Alright, how's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice, this is for entertainment purposes only. Sorry for the late start. I was getting prepped because I have got a whole bunch of stuff to do this week. I don't know if anyone will jump on. Let's see, we got one person. Let's see who it is. Hey, what's up, Jerry? How are you, bud? That's weird. My chats haven't popped up for some reason. Oh, there we go. What kind of ping pong garbage is this? Sorry, I was going to say getting my kids prepped because I'm going to be taking care of them for the next 3 days because my wife has work events every single night this week. So we were like packing lunches and stuff like that. So, yeah. Ping pong. All right. So, we had some movement on ATER, which everyone would do. Yep, baby shark. We also had movement on DTC, which was actually pretty good. So, here's AVYA. That had a nice 15% day. ATER had 5.2, but at one point it gapped up pretty significantly. DTC, I think, DTC had a nice almost 10% day. Yeah, what else do we need to cover? Party, right? They closed even, right? Is that right? They had an even day. Gap up and they pushed down, finished right where they were. Yep. What other ones were we covering recently? Oh yeah, AMC had a nice day. All right. Another thing where it pushed up, but then came back down throughout the day, but still overall, you know, moving in the right direction. APE, I think, as well, right? APE was a slight better day, but I mean, they've been pushed down since their inception, essentially. Yeah. BBBY. Slight up day, but still in the right direction. The Giants won the first game of the season for the first time in 6 years. Very bullish. Yeah, I caught some of the game. I caught the highlights. That's what I should say. I couldn't catch all the games, and I don't have NFL Red Zone, so. But yeah, pretty fun watching. My team won. I won't tell you guys because that would indicate where I'm from, but my team won, so you could eliminate half the teams. All right, so let's see. Yankees take the Penix. All right. I know we have a Eagles. Was it no? Who's Eagles suck inside the Discord? Which one of you guys is that? Probably a Dallas or a Giants fan. All right. So which ones should we cover today, or is there new ones that you guys want me to look? CJ. Okay. So who's your team? Is it the Giants? Okay, that's why you hate the Eagles. It's okay. I dated a girl who was a huge Eagles fan. She was from, I think, was it Pottstown, PA? And, yeah, she was a big Eagles fan. So I used to go watch. And I was like, you guys booed Santa Claus. Poops down. Niners fan. I mean, I feel like the Niners are always solid, though, at least as of recently. I mean, you guys went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and then, like, you guys really haven't had, like, I mean, you guys still were in the playoffs last year, right? And you guys went to the NFC Championship, right? It's not your fault Tom Brady can't retire. Let somebody else have a chance. All right, so let's see what we got going on. So, 18 people watching. Thanks for tuning in. What do you guys want to talk about today? I got a late start, but I'll cover some stuff for you if you want. Yeah. The most significant thing that I saw from today was, I know everyone in the chat was talking about Aterian for a second because it was gapped up. Now, random's New Orleans. All right. Yeah, Chiefs. You actually know the Mahomes family? That's pretty cool. Good quarterback. That kid's pretty good. That kid's pretty good. Alright, so let's do this. Let me cover ATER real quick so we can just get it out of the way. So the biggest thing I saw on Aterian today was, obviously people were freaking out because we gapped up close to like 280 and then we got pushed down, right? We still have a pretty decent sized gap here. I think we only got down to like the 260s and the gap is at 249 is what we finished on Friday. So, I mean, to me, I would rather see it gap fill and then go up, but they may be one of these things where it just starts jumping and starts kind of running, and we just know at some point it will go back and fill those areas. The last time it ran up, it didn't run up, I don't think, on any gaps, or at least not until like further in. Like, this was the giant volume day, right? And it didn't gap up here. It actually bounced off this support and then ran, and then this was the gap here. But that gap came back to fill over here. And then besides that, there wasn't any large gaps in this. So, and how many days in was that? That was like 1, 2, 3, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it was on the 4th day it gapped up. And then it didn't quite fill. 250 is where I rolled options because the gap up I have close to that. Yep. I'm telling you, theta, that's part of the problem. Or you can always do spreads, which eliminates some of the theta, so you just have to pick the direction right. That's why I had the optionality guys on, because for some people it's a strategy worth looking at, because it kind of eliminates a lot of the Greeks. If you guys remember that conversation, I know there wasn't a whole ton of people that watched that because it was the start of the football season, but yeah, I think they were providing pretty good information. If you guys want to go back, it was the last last stream I did before this one, so it should be on the 8th, the optionality guys. And if you listen to that, they talk about spread options, and I went with an optionality spread 3. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cheap. I didn't check mine today, to be honest with you, because I was working like in and out of the field. So, but yeah, so Aterian has a gap. So this gap will, at some point probably fill. I don't know if it's going to come back tomorrow, bounce off the support, and then run. But remember, this is where the warrants are. And then at that point, we think that they're probably going to push it up higher than that, just based off of what happened last time. And, it has to be said that this can go one of two ways as far as, this run on the warrants, right? So it can go exactly like it did last time, where it runs up here, they tag some sort of, fib level, and then they go down again once they start diluting, because that's essentially what happened, was they were unloading shares here. So as you're selling shares, if you're trying to make a bunch of money, what you do is you basically do Wyckoff, distribution, and you start selling into the buying pressure. This is when people are going nuts, like this thing's going to run to the moon, and that's when they're pushing down and selling shares. And that's why if you look here on this day where it ran up to this fib level, you can see a ton of shares being unloaded here, right? So that's what drove it down. People were still pushing the stock price up, and that's when they were selling into the last bits of it, right? Because they got those all at like 290, all those like shares and those warrants at like 290. So like for them, they made decent profit So I think what we figured out from last time was if we have another run like that, now there's more warrants in question. So on this run, are they going to do the same thing where they kind of like run up, and then they will start slowly unloading their stuff and kind of distribute, Wyckoff. But yeah, so I'm curious to see, because obviously if they keep pushing it up, when they start diluting, it will push the price down, and at that point it will even out probably like somewhere in this range. Because you have to figure there are some good news that's coming in for Aterian, but at the same time they're also having 7 million more shares on their books for shares outstanding. So it kind of like evens out. So like you might see it settle around this range. This looks like it's been a strong level of support in this like kind of range here. Like you can see this was a spring. There's a couple of these springs here, right? So they hit these bottoms, and then at that point they start running. Could this have been the bottom? And then, we didn't quite get to 210, did we? Did we hit 210? 220. I think 220 was the lowest we got last time. In this last little like dip. Didn't quite get down to 210. I had some contracts down there that I was looking to buy, and I also had a bunch of like orders at I think it was at 211. I had a large buy order, but we'll see. I mean, so I think Aterian hit some scanners today. It wasn't like huge volume, like it was only 4 million, but at the same time, I think because it gapped up and then hit that 10%, I think it's getting on people's radars. So we might see an increase in volume for this particular stock. But just remember, for my personal thing, I think this may be another run on the warrants, which they did back here. And so what they'll do is they'll push up the price. And I feel like we know more this time than we did last time. Like last time we kind of discussed this as a group, and we like talked about the fact that we thought that Armistice was like long at that point. They did the private placement. They saw potential in the company, and that was our like critical error. Was those guys in particular? They unloaded all their shares at the top, right? At 7, they unloaded all their shares up here. So we know now that the same people hold these warrants, and they just did something very similar. Now, how they're going to do it this time, I don't know. Like, I can't imagine they're going to do the exact same thing. And last time, it was a mixture because, we thought Armistice was long, and so we thought they were going to hold on to their shares, right? So in this case, now we know a little bit more. Now, here are the two things that I was going to tell you guys. So you can go one of two ways. So Armistice now can see that shipping rates are coming down, and they may want to hold their shares is one option. So they might actually have done this to basically make some money on the first run, and then the 7 million shares would make them still the largest shareholder of the stock. And if they think there's some good news coming down the pipeline, then they could possibly dump the first set of shares because they didn't want to go over that 10%. And they would have been with the extra 7 million shares. So it's possible they basically did this one to make money, like cash, and then these ones here were basically, like now at this point, if they unlock these warrants, push it up here, and then they hold them long. I think they paid $290 for them. So if they hold them long and Aterian turns it around, they still have now, the majority of, they've got probably close to 10% of the company. So that's one option. Or the other option is they just do what they did last time, which is basically they push this, they push the stock up, they unload, and then they just get out. So those are like the two options that we can see with these, with Armistice and High Trail, who own these warrants. So I feel like a little bit better prepared for this time because I feel like we're not going to get as fooled as last time because we thought, Armistice was long, and that was a critical mistake because, none of the other index funds or anything like really, unloaded, but Armistice was the ones that unloaded their entire position. Like they had like 5 million shares and they unloaded them all up here. So, okay, so that's Aterian. Let's cover DTC because that I thought was a little bit interesting. I was watching it today and I thought something was kind of interesting with this. So, still not a lot of volume. If you look, like, this is like 300K shares, 200K shares, 400K shares, 300K shares, 200K shares. I think this one was like 6, 5, and we're starting to get like a little bit more volume, but it's still really low. So they're pushing this up on low volume. Like, this was earnings here, right? Earnings at least had like 3 million in volume. Like, we're still getting like, is that right? Yeah, that's 3 million, right? DTC has no warrants. DTC has no dilution scheduled. They don't even have a shelf. And what's interesting is because it's so illiquid, like, if you look at here, check this out. So let's pull up the 1 minute chart. And I know that's not a great indicator, but I want you to see how freaking choppy this thing is. So look at this. Look at these jumps. You go from $5 all the way up to 6 cents, and then up to 9 cents in a matter of 3 minutes, right? Because this is a minute, or sorry, that in like less than 5 minutes, it's moved up 9 cents on basically no volume. Like, that was like a couple hundred shares literally moved that stock. Yeah, so I mean, just look at this. Like, this was sitting here at 503. It jumps down to 4.99, right? Twice. It's just, this thing's chopping around so much because there's just no volume, and it's just a liquid. Like, the bid ask is like super far apart at times. Like, look at this. The bid ask at times was 505 and 524. Like, this thing just flies around on no volume. Like, if retail actually paid attention to this stock, this thing would fly, because they don't have that many shares as well. Because this is one of those, like, it doesn't look great on paper. Like, Ortex, I believe, on this doesn't look great, and that's probably why retail never like got behind it. But it's because they don't understand it. So check this out. Like, this thing was a falling knife, and the thing is, it's not even that bad of a company, right? So, like, unlike a lot of these other ones, like, yeah, they're not profitable yet, but none of these ones that are like small caps are. Was this the one I point? No, I've been on DTC for a while. I've been writing DD on them. I just, here. So check it out. This is why nobody's paying attention to this in retail, because they're looking at this going, oh, there's only like 2 million, shares short, which is like 13% of the float, right? So obviously they're closing some like short positions, right? They don't want to be short anymore. They're starting to close it down. So it's opening up. So like utilization's down, like cost of borrow's like been dropping, but like this stock does not have a ton of like liquidity. So if you look here and you see, that's taking forever. Let me do this. All right. So look at the free float is like 14 million shares, right? So it's not a lot of liquidity. Sorry, there's not a lot of, like, a huge float. There's only, I think we established, let me pull up my chart on this, because we started going through and rebooting the float stuff. I need to get back into this. It's just, I haven't had a ton of time at work. All right. Is this the one that I was redoing? Yeah, we did it last month. So, this is what, let me pull it over like this so you can see. All right. So right here, you see 63.47 million, right? 63 for, like, that's what I had. Excuse me. So, this is where everyone gets screwed up, right? So the way they're calculating this free float, essentially, is like a little bit weird, because they're combining basically the A's and B's out, and then they're taking out the shares outstanding, right? So like you have your shares outstanding getting up to 94, but then they have accounted for about 80 million of institutional ownership. So that leaves a free float of 14 million, right? Like it's kind of crazy. Like, so it's not like there's only 14 million shares out there, and I think retail already bought a bunch of them, or at least some retail has. We'll find out obviously on the next filings, who's still in and everything, but like their stuff wasn't that bad. Like I looked at their they've got some like I did some DD on them, and let me pull it up. All right, so let's pull up. That, and we need to talk about BBBY and a couple other ones. I appreciate that. Thanks, Random. Yeah, so let me just pull up DD. Or I don't think it matters. It's BBBY. There should be one on DTC around here. Like, it wasn't really well received. It only got like 75 upvotes. It was... I basically just said, like, and then from here it went down like 30%, right? Because the stock moves like on a dime. Like, it doesn't, let me move it back to the daily. Or the 4 hour even, right? But I just want you guys to take a look at this. What are you guys starting to see here? Starting to see, whoop, right? Little cup forming on the 4 hour, on the daily. Little cup, So just wanted to point that out. But and here's the thing: this earnings was not bad. Like, it wasn't that bad, and yet it got pushed down. This is where I think this was the spring, and then we're gonna go now on a run. But they're basically gonna wait till they get some retail interest. But here. And here's the thing, like, they have options on this stuff, but it's not like this is like a real stock. Like, it's not like a bad stock. Like, it's not like, So, like, here, look what people have for analysts on this. They have, like, a high of 15, average $12, strong buy. Nobody's on, there's a couple holds and no sells at all. Financial forecast, they have them actually like earning money next quarter. Like, they beat on the last thing, and yeah, there's a couple things that they need to get together, because obviously the weakness could come if the economy tanks and everything's going to go down then, especially small caps. But I do think certain ones will run because it's just. This game they've been playing of kick the can, it's starting to come out. So DTC winter is the month for movement. They have camping gear that they have out. Yeah, I would imagine, because they do a lot of obviously solo stoves are fall. You don't really burn a ton in the winter, and in the summer. So in the winter, it makes more sense to have those sell better. But they also have they've kind of rounded it out, because they have fall and winter with their solo stoves, and then they have during the summer chubbies and a bunch of outdoor gear. So they're starting to round out what they have. But Morgoth was in here and he wrote this up for us, and I think he gave us permission to cover this stuff. But if you want to read this, I'll put a link here. But I think between what he saw and what I saw, it doesn't look like a horrible, long-term, okay, if this thing runs up, it will run pretty aggressively because the small float. So, no dilution at all. The float's small. Ortex has a free float of 14 million, like I pointed out. Insiders have already... Dude, the insiders... Let me just show you this. This is crazy, right? I don't know why this isn't on more people's radars. The insiders just bought more. Here. I don't know why my mouse has been messing around. There we go. insiders over the last couple have just been buying. Like, they're like, all right, the stock's down here. These are buys, 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 buys. Like, they bought, like, I think it was, look at these buys. So they bought 115K. He bought another 2,500, 900. But, like, they've been putting money down on this thing. Like, they've been buying this stock. Like, these are all buys. There's no sells. Like, no insiders are selling. They're just buying. So, like, insiders are buying. Insiders are buying up here, and the insiders are buying back down here. Right? So, that's always a good sign when insiders are like, yeah, I feel confident about my company. I'm going to buy more. The analysts, 4 buys, no sells, no holds on Ortex, whatever their metrics they're using. Like, some of their target prices went down from like 14 to like 11, but the stock's sitting here at what, like $5 a share? Like, all these price targets are way higher than where the price of the stock is. So, like, you're looking at maybe like 80% return if it gets to some of these price targets. Like, even just a $9 price target is 84% return. So, like, I don't know. Now, the mouse is actually hardwired, so I know that was the issue with the keyboard that one day, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand why people don't really see the potential in this, but I mean, yeah, CFO just bought 4,500 shares, and before that, the CEO bought like 200K shares, and so, yeah, this one's interesting to me. Like, I think that at some point, because of how this thing moves to on, like, very little volume, you can see these spikes when that happens. Like, if you give this thing even just, like, a slight bit of volume, we can confirm it over here on the actual. So if we go to the daily, right, on DTC, when we ran up to here, we had some, like, I don't know, a couple million volume, and it, here, like, look at these, like, that was only like 3 million volume. And this thing like spiked all the way up to like almost 8. It was like 7 something, right? It's like 750. It ran from, and I think if we go back a little bit, some of these ones where it just kind of like ran up aggressively. I could get pushed down here. Yeah, but like, I mean, this thing will move on very little volume. Like, we're talking about 2-3 million volume will literally like spike it to like almost 7. So, yeah, the CFO sounds very put together, and she apparently, I think she's very grounded. She doesn't want to like blow smoke. So they were like, we're facing obviously the same challenges as everyone else, but like, I'm looking at this like, this company's probably worth more than the $3 to $5 range that it's been hanging out in, right? I mean, look at it, just coming down, hanging out in this lower range, and it wants to go up, but it feels like they're just accumulating. So like, this is like accumulation phase, and at some point they're going to spike it. So I don't know. All right, so that's another stock cover. BBBY, I think, was one that people wanted to look at. Okay. Here. So, we talked about this before, right? We have a gap here, right? Still haven't filled. We have a gap up here that we still haven't filled, because technically, look, if you look from here, I can draw a line over. We'll just put it up to... right there. Okay. I don't know if that's exactly right, but let's just change the color so I can see it. I don't know, let's make it pink or something. It's still hard to see. I'll thicken it up a little bit. Do we have any yellow? We already have yellow. We got some blues. Let me find some color that's not being used. Like, nah, I feel like there's already something like that. All right. So anyway, as you can see, we have not filled in this gap yet. So this gap is still hanging out there around the $15 mark. So, you know, whether or not there's one more push down and then it springs up back, you know, that's earnings right there. So we may see a run up before earnings and then a drop, because that's kind of their MO. But like, I could see it, and you can kind of see right here with the cloud, like that could be the case. You also have a gap up here at 22. Just pointing that out. So there's a gap here, right? And then that's what I'm looking to see filled. Is I think we're going to see these gaps close at some point. And it really will depend on, you know, let's take a look at Ortex, but you know, the short interest keeps climbing on this thing, you know. So if you wanted to know, did the shorts close? The official report came out yesterday. Shorts have still not closed. So, same thing. I think it's 100% utilization. It's been that way for a while. And let's see, FTDs are growing again, and we'll get, you know, the further report on that, because these didn't account for the spike here. So we'll see how many FTDs they have piling up on the official. But you can already see it was growing back here, and if it continues to keep growing, then there's going to be some movement on the stock either way. Let's see, shares on loan, it's been going up. It came down recently, so not borrowing as many as they were. Cost to borrow still been, this was the peak, but it's starting to cost them more just on average. I mean, when they were shorting it back here, cost to borrow was like 1%, so yeah, I mean, like, you're talking about Wall Street bets. Like, let's pretend there's 12 million people according to the sub. Let's pretend 1 million are real, and the rest are bots. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's not. But even if you had 1 million people buying Bed Bath & Beyond, you know, for retail, yeah, they're not going to make a huge dent, but at the same time, we've already seen, you know, like, most of this drop, and I do think this gap at 22 will fill at some point. This one at 15 will definitely fill, in this, you know, the sooner than later. But the stock's at 9, you know, running up to 15 is not that big. You know, it can go, especially if all they have to do is start covering a little bit. If there's any sort of good news that comes out, like they sell baby, or, you know, they'll start issuing that ATM. So this thing's not going to moon, right? So, like, just so everyone knows that this thing is not going to moon. They've got an ATM, but will they let it get up to the 20s and, like, start issuing out, like, the shares? Yeah, probably. So, but they do have 12 million shares that they can dilute. So that would slow down anything unless this thing gets, like, margin calls start happening on it. And in that case, yeah, it will move pretty aggressively. But we haven't seen margin calls from, like, hedge funds in, like, a year. So there might have been one during this time on BBBY when this thing, like, really spiked. There might have been a margin call. So we haven't seen them in a while, but I think there are some that are, you know, yeah, 22 is the gap. Yeah, it went from 2250 all the way down to, it opened at 19 and then closed 16 and then it opened 11. So there's gaps here that they haven't filled in yet. This gap I think closed. This one right here, but the one at 15 didn't. So, all right. But yeah, BBBY, you know, I think it's going to move at some point. You know, I would tell you this. I'm only holding commons and leaps on BBBY. I am not touching anything short term. So that's just my personal way of doing it because, yeah, you can make more money on but the theta is going to kill you. And I think market makers are very aware of that all these people are buying short-term options and they're going to get absolutely ruined later. Or they're going to make tons of money, who knows. But usually they get, you know, just absolutely slapped down right before expiry. And then what happens at that point is, you know, even if you were right about the direction, you just lost out because of theta. So that's, you know, another reason why we talk about call spreads and put spreads. All right. So, what other ones were we talking about last week? AVYA, right? That was another one that Dirty's a big fan of, right? AVYA, that's his little baby. I bought some shares to support him. All right. It's a Dirty's baby, AVYA. So, gonna AVYA. So, Fintel apparently is having issues with institutional ownership. Shocking. Thing I mentioned on AMC in ATER chat about, oh yeah, the 50-cent holes. Yeah. So anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, basically when they opened up the options chains to the 50-cent ones, they shouldn't be allowed to do that shit. It creates all sorts of just. And they did it for GameStop. They did it for AMC. They did it for pretty much all the stocks they need to maintain control. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these stocks was really running that they do it to BBBY or something else. They do it for liquidity purposes, but really ends up screwing over the options chain, and they gives them more control. So just throwing it out there. All right, so VIA, we talked about this before. Institutions already own almost 70% of it. All right, Vanguard, biggest holder, World Cap Investors, BlackRock. So all your big names are here. So, did they file anything recently? Just the late quarterly, right? Which people are speculating on. Why did they do that? Okay. But yeah, VIA's there. No immediate dilution that we need to worry about is what they said. All right. But yeah, overall, you could see some consolidation here. It really depends. It's starting to look like it's weakening up a little bit because the volumes drop so much. But, it seems like what happens all the time. These particular ones, they get these massive volume spikes and then ends up, chopping around. But did they fill this gap? Yeah, they filled the gap before. But I think he played it down here And I told him, that gap will fill at some point, and it definitely did. So, good. I hope you made money on that. I've got a small position still, so I bought them like right around here. So we're about where I'm at, and they're leaps. So a couple of shares. All right. You didn't what? Oh, you didn't buy it? I got in because I thought you were in. You've been talking about it a lot. All right. Option Corp gets paid on the backside for making more options chains than the 50 cents, but they don't even out the open interest between targets, which creates holes in the options chains. Yeah. It's done on purpose. Like, they know what they're doing. Oh, you didn't sell yet. Yeah. And no dilution. You got low risk. That's what I'd say, Dirty, because you got in down here. So, like, if you're profitable, you're sitting on profit, you're probably good to hold on and just take a look and see what happens here. What? You didn't reestablish. Let me sign the Fintel. Okay, what one we were talking about? All right. So insiders are buying, right? That was one of the things with this one. So insiders been buying. Then you've got. Let's go to institutional ownership. Yeah, there we see. Still a good amount there. They sold. Victory sold some. But it looks like more net buying. The new CEO needs to file Form 4. Yeah, Vanguard still got the most. World Capital Investors, BlackRock. Alright, so. I forgot, what was I doing? Tired. Holy what? What's going on, Dirty? What are you seeing? Do you want me to scroll back up? Well, I mean, in fairness, most of these guys took some profit here, or maybe not. Let's see what's their cost basis. No, they just trimmed. Most of these guys trimmed. So these ones, all the largest ones, trimmed some of their position. These guys added. That was IWM. Oh, the graph. Yeah. These are was it institutional ownership? Yeah. I mean, the price has been going down though, like, and obviously. Well, yeah, I was gonna say. It might be my bedtime. Let's see what time it is. It's getting 11. Yeah, 11:20. I'm getting tired. All right. We'll cover some more tomorrow. I'll be on probably earlier tomorrow because hopefully I'll get the kids down for bed early, and then I'll come down here and just stream. And I won't have to talk to the wife or anything because she's going to be out at dinner. So dinner with work friends, and then the next night she's out. They're doing happy hour and some other things, and then the night after that they're having another thing. So I'll be around the next couple days for longer periods of time, so we should be good. If you want to have any questions, I'll put the Discord link inside the YouTube thing. If you want to join us and hang out and talk about stocks, you're more than welcome to. What's going on in my Discord? I just have a spinning bar. Okay. Invite. I will change it to never expire. Generate a new link. Alright. So now I need to go to. Here we go. Alright. There we go. So if you want to join us and hang out in the Discord, you're more than welcome to. If you have any questions, you can always ask me or any of the mods, or anyone that sounds like they're smart. Most people in there are pretty good about helping each other out. So, yeah, come hang out with us, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a great evening, and I'll talk to you later.